First up, we have Hijabi Hoo. Danny is a British Muslim cosplayer and streamer. Danny is known for putting unique spins on characters from pop culture, media, and for streaming Apex Legends and Assassin's Creed on Twitch. A round of applause for Hijabi Hoo. Salaam alaikum, sis. Next up is our guest, His Royal Highness, Prince Fahad Al-Saud. Your Highness is a tech entrepreneur, creative pioneer, and cultural shapeshifter. His creation of Latifa, the first female Arab superhero, is a shining example of being a force for change, building cultural bridges and introducing Arab culture in a positive light into the global arena. Your Fahadness, please come out. Next up, Headbanger Hijabi. Ooh. Jumana Shami has been in fandom and crafting spaces for many years, primarily operating in Chi-Town, that's Chicago, y'all. Hey! And online communities to foster a healthy atmosphere. She started cosplaying in 2019 and has many projects underway, which she will tell us about. Please come out, Headbanger Hijabi, right here, Jumana. How you doing? Doctor, I'm not the only doctor in the house. We have Dr. Jaasir Jabbar, who goes by Jibber Jabbar. Jaasir is a doctor, cosplayer, writer, and filmmaker who has embraced various artistic outlets and hopes to inspire others to pursue their dreams without being confined by cultural norms or societal expectations. I love that. Come on now, Jibber Jabbar. In fifth gear, mind you. This is Joy Boy. I think it lights up. Doesn't it light up? Last but certainly not least is our queen. Yes, the queen of cosplay. Helalipop is a female Muslim cosplayer who incorporates her Bangladeshi heritage and religious background into her creations. She reimagines and transforms mainstream superheroes and villains into female characters that wear hijab and have attire that billow in the wind. This is our final panelist for today, Helalipop. She's also repping New York, right, honey? What's up, what's up, what's up? And I am your host, Dr. Shamika Mitchell, Associate Professor of English with the State University of New York, Rockland Community College. I'm also a comics editor, and I am a member of Women in Comics Collective International. Our goal is to, as it says here on the bag, diversifying comics one panel at a time. Thank you very much. I am the founder of Salaam fandom, and we are gonna get started. So, we don't have time for origin stories, but we do have time for you to tell a little bit about your story. Tell me about what you have going on today. I'm loving the costume, so we'll start to the left.
Hello, Salaam fandom.
Wa salam.
So I got into cosplay very accidentally as a Bengali girl. I was told to put on makeup, so I thought I could do this. And I took lipstick and eyeliner and became Darth Maul. Very easy. Black hijab, black abaya, done. And my friends, they told me, oh, you could do like wizards and things like that, and it'll be hijab compliant because your head is covered. But it's very important to me that people know that I'm Muslim and I wear hijab and that I am observant in my faith and a geek at the same time. Today's cosplay is something that I chose to do that's simple in that I didn't make anything. My dress is from Amazon. This is my Eid jewelry and mad makeup. And very importantly, last but not least, glue stick to tape down the eyebrows. So this is a simple cosplay. That's what I have. That's what I brought from New York. Because listen, I paid that overweight fee, and it was not cute. It was not cute.
Joy Boy.
Hello. Oh, there. Yeah, it's all on. Salaam, guys. My name is Dr. Jaasir Jabbar, or Jibba Jabba. I'm also a fellow Bengali that fell into cosplay. Funny story. I was actually doing a pediatrics exam. I thought, oh, this is stressful. So I took sewing and suturing and got into cosplay like that. Like my first ever costume was Prince Ali from Aladdin, and then it's been like my biggest sort of like stress relief, and it's kind of stuck with me over the years. And I've been doing it for like a little bit, like for 2 years. Moved back to the UK, and yeah, I always think just because I'm Desi or South Asian, I'm in this box of like a stereotype. Doctor has to go to med school, so I tried to do something different. So since graduating, I've been doing a bit of filmmaking. Most of my cosplays, including all of this, is made by yours truly. My fingertips are gone from all the soldering and the sewing. Like they don't exist anymore. But yeah, honestly, my hope and dream with all the cosplay that I do is like other people, like you can have everything. You can be the stereotypical Asian person, but also do crazy makeup looks or cosplays. So yeah, I'm Gear 5 Luffy. Yeah, this shawl is made with polyfill, but everyone who loses me in the convention, just follow the trail of clouds on the floor and you'll eventually find me because it's just like shedding like this, subhanAllah. But yeah, that's basically me. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Headbanger Hijabi.
Hello? Is this on? Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I started cosplay only, like, literally the weekend that everything shut down for COVID was the C2E2 that I met you.
That was C2E2 2020.
Yeah, 2020. It was in March, like the first weekend in March, and then the second weekend we all shut down. But I've sort of branched into a whole lot of things. I grew up, my grandma is a seamstress, my mom is a sewer. I kind of have this habit of how hard can it be is the gene that I kind of grew up with. So I've figured out this cosplay that you see here, I did most of that one, minus like the shoes and the undershirt. This one here that I'm wearing is, I bought it. I love seeing different ways that I can make a hijab, my hijab incorporate into the cosplay, especially with something like Star Wars, where you see like Padme has a lot of outfits that are actually just technically hijab, but you can also see different things that I do, just seeing different ways to incorporate things into what I am and how I present myself, and it's always fun.
I'm loving the makeup too. Yeah.
Hello. Oh, this
Your
is on.
Fahadness. Now, in addition to talking about just your awesome, what you got on going on.
We're just repping ethnic.
But I also,
That's
yes.
how we do it, right?
I also want to talk about.
That's the whole point of.
I also want to talk about your costume choices for Latifa. Do we have issue number 1 that, I know it's in the roll here, but do you have?
Somewhere here.
Oh, okay. Well,
We're after here. We're going to have a lot of free issues for everybody here, so that'd be great. And if we'll talk about it later, but like every Arab Muslim, you had to be either a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer. And I'm an engineer, mechanical. Never worked in it at all. And that I tried to. It just came from the birth of lacking representation, not seeing myself in various types of media. And about 10 years ago, I went on this journey of changing the one-sided story narrative and introducing the women that I grew up with. I grew up with women of strength that led their families, that led their communities, that led their ecosystems, and I just wanted to translate that and have much more of an authentic, representation. And the idea is to utilize whatever privilege I had, being a man, being, of certain advantages, to be able to create this platform and open it for those, where we are today. So it took 10 years in the making, and being able to be here with you guys and seeing how it's evolved is magnificent.
Alhamdulillah. And last but not least,
Is me.
Hijabi Hoo.
Hello.
So tell us what you got going on.
What do I got going on? Well, I switched from being a hooligan to just being a who now, so I've kind of become everyone knows me to no one knows me, but in a good way. It works with the assassin, you know, undercover. Hi, my name's Danny. I am a very unprepared cosplayer, a very last-minute streamer, a very last-minute everything, and I am just here to do the same as everybody else. I want to represent the hijab in a good light. I want to show people that there is no, you know, oppression behind it. There is always freedom in it, and our choice is our own, and we can have as much fun as someone who doesn't wear it, and we can look just as good as someone who doesn't wear it. And it's very nice to be able to put it into all these different projects that you see. Like, I mean, the one on the left doesn't even have a hijab, but the rest of them do. But it's nice to be able to showcase that I can stick to my faith, and I can practice it, and I don't have to compromise on anything, and I can be any character I want to be, and I can have fun with that.
And that's what makes fandom so special. So I started Salaam fandom back in about 2016. I was at a Muslim women leaders seminar with Union Theological Seminary. And I said, you know, I want to do something that is going to get like more folks that are on the creative side involved. And so it was New York Comic Con. Shout out to Reed Pop for giving me a chance. New York Comic Con, I believe it was 2017. And I had my first Salaam fandom panel. And from then, it's just gone into many different directions. I've got to meet so many wonderful people, including all of you at some point through connections. And my goal was always to talk about the fandom as it's connected to faith, but also as it's connected to things that are in pop culture, because they're not exclusive of one another. Talk about some of the challenges that you may have had trying to negotiate some of the fandoms that you participate in, whether it's gaming, whether it's cosplay, whether it's with the anime or comics. Because sometimes the subject matter in those things may be questionable. You may be playing a video game and it's like all the villains that you have to shoot are people of your background, you know. So can you talk a little bit about like where your fandom experience is, how you've observed that? Just be mindful of the clock though.
No, absolutely. So that is a very interesting thing that you just said there, because as a gamer, and I've been gaming since the womb, I have never, until probably the last maybe 3 or 4 years, seen any form of Muslim, male, female, hijab or not, represented as a good guy and as a protagonist and not an antagonist, you see. So it's definitely been something that I think we've all struggled with. We've all struggled to see ourselves in the media, struggled to see ourselves in a positive light. And so I think it's very important that we're all here. We're all trying to spread a good message and show that we are actually really chilled out people, and we are fun people, and we can have, like I said, we can have fun, and we can be good people.
We can geek out.
We can be nerds. Hello?
I mean, we are.
We are.
It's the default. Come on. I think the thing is, 10 years ago, I started a company called Naam, New Arabic Media, and it was exactly that. It was trying to dive into different mediums, from animation to video games, mobile games, and comic books to, you know, infuse it with correct, positive, more authentic, you know, representation. And it was a hard climb, you know, because you would ask a question. So if you were here 10 years ago, why don't we know about you? It's because that's how much you have to fight from the very get-go, because you're put against the global marketplace, you know, and they water you down, and it's always challenged. I spent most of my time in boardrooms or in, you know, pitch meetings, justifying my existence before even getting to the content. And, you know, it took a while, but here we are, and I'm super excited. People like you are giving us the opportunity to create it, because after this is the sisterhood and the brotherhood that's being evolved, and I can't wait to really connect with everybody after this.
The geeky, nerdy Ummah is in effect. I observed it whenever I was at Comic-Con, and I said, do we even know who's doing what? And so this is also the opportunity to network. For all of you out here who identify as Muslim, but also as a member of the geek nerd community, networking is important because when there are jobs that come available, it's good to know who you can recommend for things. And there were times where, like in Chicago, I didn't know of any gamers that I could have on the panel. And the one guy that was known as like the Muslim gamer, he was being pulled in like 20 different directions. And I said, there have to be like some other gamers out here because I want to get some gamers on my panels, and it was so hard to find them. So I'm glad to be able to finally get, that's that visualization, to get some gamers.
Glad to be of service.
To get some gamers on the panel this time. But yes, to this side, please talk about some of the challenges or questions you may have had negotiating faith and fandom.
Sure. So growing up as a child of immigrants in New York, as a brown person, having lived through 9/11, like our very existence is a challenge. You are constantly having to prove yourself, and you have to be better than everyone else. Like my fellow panelists, I am an engineer, and I work as an engineer, and I'm out in the field, and everybody's looking at me, and my own, how do I say this? The cops have been called on me doing field work on my own property. So I came into cosplay already battle ready, toughened, and I do not care what anybody thinks of me. Unfortunately, this New York attitude has not been able to be put into play because I get no hate, and really I want to fight. So the cosplay experience for me, like alhamdulillah, has been super positive, and I get a lot of when I started cosplaying, my friends were like, "Oh, this has to be movie accurate, comic accurate, blah blah blah." Guess what? There ain't no hijabi character. Now there is, but you know, there was nobody. There was no Bangladeshi, no brown woman. Now we have Miss Marvel, and that was actually the only costume I was able to purchase and put on with no modifications. And this is why coming in as a Bangladeshi hijabi, I felt ultimate freedom in terms of my character choice, because the female character designs are garbage. And a lot of people told me, you know, I thought that cosplay was for sex workers. They thought it was because the female outfits in anime and in like Marvel, DC,
Very revealing.
Very revealing bikinis, and they're like, how are you gonna cosplay in hijab? You're gonna wear a bikini, like, and a hijab, how does this work? And I said, well, I'm gonna be Superman. And they're like, how on earth are you going to be Superman? And it was a little uncomfortable because I tend to wear very like loose clothing, but you know what? I was walking the streets of Washington, D.C. for AwesomeCon, and people would line up to introduce their children to me. White parents with white children, black parents with black children, and in the United States, like, not gonna speak for the black experience, but, you know, they're so welcoming to the other communities of color. And they wanted to show their little girls and their little boys in the aftermath of Trump, this is what a superhero can look like. And there was this one little boy, this one little black boy with his father, and his father says, oh, look, it's Supergirl. And the little boy goes, no, Dad, that's Superwoman, you know? So, you know, and I think, like, as Muslims, we've spent the past 23 years apologizing, begging, cringing, whispering our way into work and school and entertainment, and I'm not apologizing for anything. Well, to my parents, because I give them a lot of grief. They're the only people I will take garbage from and apologize to. But from my perspective, the art that comic book writers and movie producers create is just an idea. It's a man's idea or a woman's idea on paper, and my ideas are just as valid. So, like a lot of the cosplays I'm known for, like Ghost Rider, Aquaman, these are entirely my creation, inspired by the movies, inspired by the shows, but my idea is just as valid and more sparkly.
I think it's also
much sparkly.
What's so great about this type of cosplay is so important is that the representation that we do get, like if we are to talk of the two main existing, you know, I guess juggernauts, DC and Marvel. With DC, you have Violet, who is, okay, Muslim, hijabi, but with a fake country, fake existence, and is a cyborg. And then you have Suraya Qadir Dust, who's a Niqabi, which is actually that was ironically the inspiration that got me to really want to dive into this world, because I thought it was great. But then we're not limited to this, and infusing yourself into these different storylines is what I think it makes your work even much more important than people even realize.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciate that. And I will say, like, the biggest challenge I see is that people have very high expectations for my next creation, and I don't know how to top myself.
That's a good challenge to have.
I'm just saying, maybe I'm done. Who knows?
Jibba Jabbar and then Hijabi Hooligan. I'm sorry. And then Headbanger Hijabi. Tell us about faith and fandom for you. What's your process been like?
Honestly, it's like everything the other panelists have said. It's like everyone else, when they do any other fandom, it's like they're playing Super Mario, right? But because we are all people of color, and then we're also Muslim as well, it's like we're playing Dark Souls, like a lot harder video game. So as a result, like I can only speak from my experience. I did my medical degree in Eastern Europe. And on top of that, I was a Muslim brown person there. And on top of that, I was cosplaying. So it's not necessarily my family approves, and not necessarily the culture and society I was in approved. So it's very hard to tell yourself, oh no, what you're doing is good, what you're doing is cool. It's very hard to turn off like everyone's opinions. But I think alhamdulillah, there's a sort of strength in that. Because in your heart you're doing good, you're having fun, that's all there is to it. For example, about 2 years back, I did a collaboration with Cartoon Network for their Teen Titans TV show. I was their cyborg, I was on their Twitter, everything. I was like, oh wow, my cosplay is really getting recognized. But because they're like, oh, we want to showcase your cosplay group in Europe, I happen to be the only dark-skinned person there, so that's close enough to a black person. But on top of that, when my photos went online, got absolutely ridiculed, because it's like, oh, his name is Jaasir Jabbar. Like, what is this Muslim guy trying to, engineer bombs down? Like, I was like, oh my God. So at that point, I was like, oh no, what do I do? But at the end of the day, if you love something, it really doesn't matter. Like, I may be a stereotype in one way, but my mom, my aunties, my grandma, they're all Bengali pageant queens. So they all taught me how to sew. So I was like, yeah. So I was like, you know what?
Serve face.
Exactly. I was like, I serve. Alhamdulillah. I will see you in Jahannam. And khalas. Yeah, that's it. But I think everyone here, everyone is here. They're trying their best, and that's the most important thing.
Agreed.
Slowly things are changing. Like the fact that we can even have a panel, the fact that we can even have like a social media presence. Like I was speaking about like backstage, like in London, you can walk and see, oh, there's 4 or 5 hijabi cosplayers. Like when I was abroad, people were like, oh, are you doing a Studio Ghibli no-face cosplay with your black hijab? Like there used to be an event in this convention hall called the Global Peace and Unity event. It was like an Islamic event. And it happened at the same time as Comic-Con. So the cosplayers will look at the hijabis, and the hijabis will look at the cosplayers, and the cosplayers go, oh, are you doing... Someone went up to my mom, I love your Dementor cosplay from Harry Potter. This was about 8 years ago, and now that we can sit here, I'm like, yeah, alhamdulillah, things have changed.
Things done changed.
Yeah, mashallah, so we try. So I can serve this, and it's okay. Alhamdulillah, but yeah, that's it. Just follow your dreams, I guess.
And for you? Faith and fandom, how have you navigated that terrain?
So I think I think for me, fandom has really been an escape. Growing up, I don't know what is happening with that. Growing up, I was one of a few mixed kids in my realm of people. My mom is white, my dad is Syrian. We're Muslim, but I didn't quite fit in with the Muslim community there, because in Chicago, it's very much where you're from, do you speak the language, so on and so forth. And me being too white for the Arabs and too brown for the white people, you kind of get put into a box. And then on top of that, I was homeschooled. So I kind of learned how to get a thick skin really quick, and one of my escapes was with fandom, with Harry Potter, with Narnia, with all of these different things. And I took that as a way to show me how I can be in the world and present and make myself known, but also take no shit. Sorry, excuse my language.
There are babies in the audience. For Family Day.
No dookie.
No stuff.
Shiitake? I don't know. But yeah, so that's one of those things where it's like you don't realize how much of an impact it has until you are in front of a crowd that says, hey, you are not part of us. You're going to go sit over there with the others in the room. And so something like Harry Potter, something like Narnia, something like Avatar, something where you do see people who are othered who then also get to be the hero is something that really resonated with me.
I think there's something about the Ummah that we take for granted, which is that it is a combination of different people from different orientations, different ideologies even. The first Salaam fandom I had at San Diego Comic-Con had somebody who was Shia, transgender, somebody from the Nation of Islam, I'm Sufi, somebody else who, is, on the more conservative side, but not so conservative that they couldn't be at Comic-Con, because that is a thing for some folks. And you find this in other religious orientations as well, where people feel like if you represent a religion, then you can't have fun. And there are ways that you can have fun that keeps it wholesome. So how do you keep it wholesome?
I don't know what that word means.
you know?
I think it's by redefining it and understanding that to be original, to be authentic, to be an actual representation of what your experiences are is to make some people a little bit uncomfortable, and that's okay. Through discomfort, you can have discussion, and hopefully you can have dialogue and some sort of evolution of thought. And if not, then you're the one who's having a bad day, not me.
So then with
Okay.
Latifa,
Yes, exactly.
with your heroine, Latifa,
Well,
how is she? Tell us about her.
Well, she's her tag, she's
she's the
Latifa,
baddie.
but her tagline is "I'm not Latifa," and that's the whole point. Is like it's like don't make assumptions. Like her story is about creating her own identity. She's she doesn't have the burden of being one way or another or through being manipulated by generation or culture. She grows up in the desert and she formulates her own judgment based on her humanity. And I think that's and she has, her goal is to challenge everything. When if you look at her, she's wearing a hijab, but it's actually a kufiya, but it's for men, but it's not the different color. We're matching her colors right now. And the idea is just to make you think and to understand that there's really levels to everything. And let us define us by the end of and your experience with that is how it should be,
Absolutely.
I definitely want to I want to talk about what Helalipop was saying earlier about we have to work twice as hard as anyone who I guess wouldn't identify as Muslim or someone who isn't very obviously of color, someone who is of a culture that doesn't fit into kind of what is standardized for not just cosplayers, but being a nerd, being, vocal about my love of something that isn't work or faith, right? And I feel like I'm very, very proud to say I have friends who are very prevalent in the media, prevalent in voice acting, prevalent on screen, prevalent within modeling, prevalent within music, everywhere. And the amount of work that I see them put in, it shouldn't be that way. It is empowering, absolutely. But I feel like it is definitely something that we need to make more standardized. If I have to work at level 2500 to achieve base level, like, you know what I mean? Everyone else should.
Right.
It's not because I wear hijab, it's not because I'm brown, it's not because I'm Arab, it's not because 9/11 happened and I still get the blame to this day for it when I was like 3 in the crib.
And you're a woman too. So
And because
right
I'm a
there,
woman, exactly.
intersectionality adds up.
Exactly. I definitely feel like we need to make it more normal that we all have the same opportunities, we all have the same experiences, and we can all achieve them.
But don't you agree? Like I think for us, just give us a challenge, give a,
Oh, absolutely.
when you say, if, I think we all come from that community, like if this is what, it's fine. Do you know what I needed to do just to get here, just to be here, just to do this? So I laugh at the obstacles that they think they have because it's for us, it's just, we're just like, we're giving you a little bit more time to get on board. If you're not, we'll just see you later, you know what I mean? And just see the powerhouses that are here and the audience that's here. It's just, it's really interesting. Instead of saying, we, here we are, it's like we've been here. Where have you been? So I always say to people when I leave any event like this, it's like, thanks for coming.
Yeah. And in terms of navigating, I just wanted to say that I think it's given us all this extra layer of tough skin. Right. And also an essential layer of tenacity. I feel like whenever any of us are presented a challenge, we're always like, you know what? I know what I'm going to do with this. I've done this before. I can do it again. I can do it 10 times better. And I can keep going and going and going. We can't top ourselves, but we can add on to how good we already are. Yeah?
I want to ask you, Headbanger Hijabi. So as somebody who was dealing with the isolation, did you find that your fandom was where you found your safer space, your place where you could find your tribe, your place of belonging?
Yeah, for sure. One of several tribes that I found is through places like Discord. I moderate a couple different Discord servers, and in a lot of these places, even in Chicago and in the online spaces, I am the only Arab, I am the only Muslim. So a lot of people, I'm the very first touch point that they have for the community. And I try to do my best to be kind of engaging and answering questions. Personally, I am of the mindset that as long as it's not a stereotype, you can ask me anything. I really don't mind. But to be isolated within the community but found, but being able to find a community within fandom. I've been to Comic-Cons all over the country. I've went to New York Comic-Con. I go to Chicago Comic-Cons every year. I've been to, this is my first international Comic-Con. Next year I'm going to the Star Wars Celebration in Japan.
So you're something, what? Y'all going to Japan? So you find yourself to be more of an ambassador now.
Yeah, exactly. And so I also find myself, when I go to conventions, I try to talk to people at panels. I try to engage with them, see where they're coming from, what topic they're discussing, and try to just reach out and find community within that. There is, like I said, there is community within like my surroundings in Chicago, but there's also a little bit of judgment because, again, back to the everybody needs to be work and faith-based. I have my own adult money now. I'm going to spend it on something fun. I'm sorry.
For Joy Boy, I mean, you picked Fifth Gear, and I find that to be interesting because I find Joy Boy to be the most liberating and the most empowering.
I relate to him, that's
which
why.
is very much so a part of our dean. So with the couple of minutes that we have left, please tell us why you chose Joy Boy.
Honestly, I just, like, for me, with a lot of cosplays, they're Japanese characters, right? So I've been trying to incorporate my culture into them, but also I don't want it to be always just skin. Luffy's basically like just wearing shorts.
He's the liberator.
He's the liberator, liberating from clothes, subhanAllah. But that's why I was like, let me try and transform into something desi, something authentic. Hence why I made my own kurta, I made my own shawl, I did my own wig. But there's one thing I want to add was like going on from everybody else, which is the one thing I like about fandoms and cosplay, it's the one time in the world where the first question isn't, where are you from? But like, where are you from? Like I've had that my whole life. I've lived in the UAE, I lived in the UK, I lived in Europe. So my whole life, I've just been moving from one place. So it's the first time people don't have to look at me for something else because I'm like cosplaying somebody else. But at the same time, alhamdulillah, I think it's like we say we struggle, we have these difficulties, but it's good. So, the old expression, diamonds are forged under pressure. The sharpest blades, you have to like temper the steel for many, many hours to get as sharp as you can. So alhamdulillah, we don't have these opportunities now, fine. But when the time comes, because I'm a big believer in when the time comes, it comes. We take it. Because most people, especially be it in cosplay who blow up or be it in any other industry, they don't have that sort of mental fortitude where like, I will not break. So the moment the slightest bit of adversity comes, they topple. That won't be me. I struggled way too hard for 6 years of medical school to do my cosplay, to be in Eastern to Europe. I have to fight my own family as well as the people online. Alhamdulillah, whatever opportunities come. That's it. But yeah, so the fandom is my disguise. Like, I can be whoever I want to be. Just because a character doesn't happen to be brown or black or whatever, I can make it. Just because the cosplay isn't halal, I can make it halal, as I've done today. So that's what I like about the fandoms. But yeah, that's just me.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Just in terms of freedom, I think that us holding tight to our faith and our identity gives us the most freedom. And that's what I found for myself. Being like really authentically me. I'm not blonde, I'm not white, I don't have blue eyes. I can buy the blue eyes. but you know, when I did that, when I really like tried to look like myself and really spent my time creating for myself, that's when my art has the broadest appeal. This is something that I can pray in, I can go to the masjid, I can be in front of my parents and in front of children, and this is authentically me. I didn't set out to cosplay to be broadly appealing. I only tried to satisfy myself, because let's be real, you can't satisfy anybody. There's nobody in the audience that I am perfect for, not in my family, not at work. But if I am pleased with myself, then that's enough. And when I focused on that, people are excited to see it because they can see the devotion that I put into my work. And I think that would be like the one thing I would say to people. Don't measure yourself against anybody else. Don't measure yourself against this panel. We are all masochists. You don't have to be, you know. You see, there's a lot of like, we're all a little off. So I think it's vitally important. And when you focus on what feels true to you, it's so freeing. I am not part of any cosplay group. I'm not involved in any of the toxicity in the New York City cosplay communities because they have these rules where people own characters. You have to buy from a certain vendor. It has to look like it's from the movie studio. None of that nonsense. For me, I sew salwar kameez, I make lengas, and I love that the Bengali people are like the sewers, right?
Yeah, of course.
We have that textile heritage. So it's just going back to our roots and going back to who we are, because obviously this is non-traditional. Even my job is non-traditional, but being who I am, my coworkers have printed out a life-size plot of me as Ghost Rider, and it's hanging in my office. And again, this is something that it's weird that there's this fire monster hanging in my office, but it's not unprofessional. Yeah. It's not. And this is who I am. And a lot of people, I feel, are ashamed of being a nerd or being part of a fandom or things like that, or they feel like their cosplays aren't perfect and they hide this aspect of themselves. And for me, especially as a New Yorker, like, I'm going to be open. I'm going to be who I am. And that's
who we are.
That's right. It's who we are. And that's where I think we get the best.
Yeah, for sure. Time just went. So I'm going, hold on, Jabbar.
I just want to say one
real
quick
quick
thing. This cycle will never end. Like Never. Like, people forget this. Since you're Sufi, right? The most famous poet of the Eastern or Middle Eastern generation was Rumi, who is Sufi, a poet, but most people don't know him as a Muslim sheikh. No. He was a scholar of faith leading prayer. But this man was also talking about the beauty of a woman, how to make love, and all this sort of stuff in his poetry. But no one knows the religious part. So this generation, and maybe you want to be a comic book writer, maybe previous generation you want to be poet, but as long as you're true to yourself, history will remember you for the good things you've done.
Absolutely.
I think that's the most. That's
the best thing is that it doesn't just apply to being Muslim either, or being. No. It applies to other things. It applies to disability. It applies to people who are of a different size who think I can't do this or do that. You'd be surprised how well received any form of self-expression, when it's authentic, is. the best cosplays that I think I've ever made were the ones where I didn't try to look like the character and I tried to look like myself, and everyone was like, I'm in a wheelchair and I think I want to do this as well, because you show me that although you're not in one, you wear a hijab, you can do it. What's
Right.
stopping me?
And Allah doesn't make mistakes.
get the last word.
Yeah, Allah doesn't make mistakes. You are you for a reason.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think, you know, it's about embracing that. And if that means your originality is an extension of the divine. And I think that's something that we should all be grateful for.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much for our panelists. Helalipop, Jaasir Jabbar, Headbanger Hijabi, I am not Latifa, and Hijabi Hoo, Salaam Fandom MCM 2024 May. Thank you very much to Michael, to Annie, to Connor, to the team here for supporting us, to Teresa, if she's still here somewhere. This has been a journey, and I hope we get to continue it. We are going to have the meet and greet on the other side, so when you go out, just please go around and get in queue. I have free copies, and I believe there are free copies
We have
also.
some free copies for everyone.
And on that note, enjoy the rest of the con if you're not coming by. We can take, I think, a couple of photos before we depart.